The cytoskeleton is a collection of fibers that extends throughout the cell. And this is going to be something that's found in all cell types. So this is something that you would have in both prokaryotic cells and then also in eukaryotic cells. And I think a lot of times the cytoskeleton is a part of the cell that tends to be forgotten about. But this is a part that really is crucial to the overall functioning of the cell. So if we were to take a look at the cytoskeleton and actually draw it inside of a cell, here is my cell, and this is really going to be composed of just a network of fibers that extends all throughout the interior of the cell. And these fibers that you do have, they're made up of a variety of different materials. So you will see them in different sizes. Some of them happen to be hollow, some of them happen to be solid, and then some of them actually even extend from the cell. So if we talk about some of these different fibers that I've drawn on here, we do have some that are called microtubules. We have some that are called microfilaments. And then there's also some that are called intermediate filaments. And as far as the differences between these three that I've listed here, the specific protein that composes them is going to be a little bit different. Microtubules are made of a protein called tubulin. The microfilaments are made of a protein called actin. And then the intermediate filaments are going to be made of a different protein as well. And they do have a size difference to these, and the function of them inside of the cell is going to be a little bit different as well. So if we were to talk about overall functions of the cytoskeleton, first off, you can see that it is something that extends throughout the inside of the cytoplasm. So just because of it extending throughout the inside of the cytoplasm, one thing that we can say that it's going to do is it's going to provide some structural support. So when we say structural support, it's going to help prevent the cell from collapsing. Another way to say that is that it is going to help to maintain the shape of the cell. So we can see all of these fibers in here are just going to give some overall structure to the interior of the cell. In addition to that, because they are located there inside of the cell, another important thing that they can do is they can help to organize. So if we have cell parts inside of here, this can provide kind of anchorage points for all of that. So it's going to organize the cell. Or another way to say that is it's going to provide attachment points. And that's attachment points for different parts of the cell. It could be chloroplast, it could be mitochondria, just a variety of cell components that we can now anchor in different locations. Additional functions, and really we just have a whole long list of functions that would go along with the cytoskeleton. Another one that we can say, and I'll just list it up here, is it's very, very important for movement. And we put this movement into two overall categories. We say that it's important for intracellular movement. And when we say intracellular movement, we're talking about interior movement. So this would be movement of something from, say, one side of the cell to somewhere else. So if we needed to move, say, a vesicle from one location to another location, these fibers become like little roads inside of the cell, or little tracks inside of the cell. So it's very important for moving things from one side of the cell to the other, but it's also very important for what we call extracellular movement. And the extracellular movement part is really applying to the entire cell moving. So if we have an entire cell that needs to move, we have some specialized parts of the cytoskeleton that tend to get involved in that. And some of those I've drawn here in purple, and that's these tails that we have right here, and these are going to be called flagella. The flagella, they do tend to be rather long. There tends to be a small number of them, so maybe 1, 2, 3, something like this. And you may have seen flagella before on a sperm cell picture. So that is the tail that we see on sperm cells. So that's how they get around. Flagella are really good at providing a very fast movement and a very directional movement. They're not the only part of the cytoskeleton that we have, though, that can extend from the cell. So another part that we have, if I just draw it like this, and this is also involved in the extracellular movement, this is more like little hairs on the outside of the cell. And these little hairs that we have, these are called cilia. So if I just write that over here, the cilia, they're much shorter than the flagella. There's going to be a whole lot more of them, and they're also going to provide some movement for the entire cell, although they're not going to provide the same kind of speed and the same kind of directional movement that the flagella provides. So together, the cilia and the flagella, those would help to move the entire cell. They are structures that you're not going to find in all cell types. So they are found in both prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells, but in specific cells. So we've listed a number of functions of the cytoskeleton here. Just to add one more to our list of functions, another thing that we do say is important with the cytoskeleton is that it does help with regulation of biochemical activities. And when we say that it is involved in regulating biochemical activities, really what we're referring to here is something that ties along with the movement and then also the anchorage that we talked about down here. Because if you had two parts of the cell that needed to interact with each other, then the cytoskeleton could maneuver those parts so that they're located right next to each other, and then obviously they're going to be able to interact better. Or another way to think about it is if we're thinking about maybe photosynthesis, and we've got some sunlight over here. So here's where the light is coming in. Well, the part of the cell that's responsible for intercepting that light energy is the chloroplast. So if I had a couple of chloroplasts over here, then what the cytoskeleton is going to help us do is actually move these over to this side of the cell. Because if they're over on this side of the cell, then they're going to be better able to intercept that light energy that's coming in. So in that fashion, we're saying that the cytoskeleton is helping to regulate the actual biochemical activities of a living cell. So just to emphasize again, the cytoskeleton is a collection of fibers. These fibers come in different sizes. They're made of different types of proteins. They extend throughout the inside of the cell, and then in some cases, they actually project from the cell. So that would be our flagella and our cilia. And overall, the cytoskeleton is going to be something that you're going to find in pretty much all cells, and that's both prokaryotic cells and also eukaryotic cells.